I saw some prominent figures on the far left who were celebrating this. And we have lost our collective conscience.
How do you know that?
Because he's going to pardon himself, he's going to pardon his family, Shifty Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and anybody else who had their hands in the cookie jar.
Word is going around that Biden might pardon himself, which is just crazy, isn't it? Along with a number of preemptive pardons for people that he thinks Trump could target for their wrongdoings. You'd think maybe if they've done wrong, let there be some form of repercussion for it, but it's funny because the tables have just turned so completely, where, you know, they kind of went after Trump legally to no avail, and now suddenly Biden is worried that they're going to go after him, and he's thinking, I do not want to go through what I just put Trump through.
I guarantee you, and you can quote me on this, I'll come on your show when it happens, he's going to pardon himself, he's going to pardon his family, Shifty Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and anybody else who had their hands in the cookie jar. I do not doubt it. So all we're hearing is leaks of something we already knew. They lied to us during the election. The American people saw through it, and now here we are. Pardon after pardon will be handed out, and I assure you of that. Listen, KJP's admitting it. More are to come, but it's going to be rocking the nation when we see who it is that he pardons.
What I don't like is that it creates a whole new ballgame for presidents in the future. Like, what is the new format that you can just do whatever you want? Anyone involved can just do whatever they want, any amount of corruption, and just pardon everyone at the end of it. I'm sure there have been many pardons that weren't really in the interest of anybody, but this seems almost like anti-interest of the citizens, you know? It seems that Biden is throwing everything he can at this. Do you think that he can stop a successful Trump administration? And then people are asking, is it legal at all?
You've put your finger on what makes these pardons unprecedented. I think they're still within the president's pardon power, which has almost no limits to it. Just impeachment and state crimes can't be pardoned. Otherwise, the Supreme Court has said the power is plenary. They don't generally get into a review of the pardon. But this is different because you're saying, as you say, it's not a pardon for specific acts that are mentioned, for specific prosecutions. Often people have already served their sentences. Instead, it's just a time period. And President Biden saying anything that happened in that time period. The only one I can think of that's like that is the Nixon pardon by Gerald Ford, who basically pardoned Nixon for Watergate. Right. And we didn't know what was coming next. It was just, but that shows how unprecedented it is to use that, not for what Ford did. It might have lost in the election, to heal the country after Watergate. Instead, Biden is actually, he's like someone who set someone's house on fire because he tore down these norms in the service of lawfare. And then he's saying, oh my God, the fire's going to come hit my house now. He is worried that the same things that he unleashed for the first time in lawfare are now going to be used by Donald Trump against him. So actually his use of this pardon in an unprecedented way is response to his own crossing of the Rubicon and allowing the use of prosecution to have political effects.
It's already questionable how valid a pardon is from someone who is so obviously into mental decline. They don't think he was fit to run for presidency again, but it's okay for him to pardon a ton of people. That one is a funny one. I think many people are aware it's wrong that he's even still president, but it's like, what can you do about it? And you know, as they say, nature hates a vacuum. So I think that that's why Trump is already behaving as a leader of the US before he's even been sworn in. This is what the current and coming president are up to at the moment.
Tanzania's commitment to regional integration and shared prosperity. We note the progress made on the development of the Lobito Corridor and commend the visionary leadership that has brought this initiative. Please. And it is through such partnerships and innovations that Africa's Agenda 2063 will be realized. I thank you.
But projection has become one of the favorite tools of the Democrats' toolkit. Have a look at Obama here.
Since total victory is impossible in a country politically split down the middle, the result is a doom loop of government gridlock, even greater polarization. When I mentioned to a few friends that our foundation would be hosting a forum on democracy and pluralism, I got more than a few groans and eye rolls, especially since, as far as they were concerned, the election proved that democracy is pretty far down on people's priority list. There are going to be times, potentially, when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents.
That, my friends, is projection.
That is amazing, actually. So it's intentional. I mean, this isn't just some tick or something that just popped into his head because he's bummed out that they lost the election so bad. I mean, people need to understand Barack Obama has been a really negative force on this country and on politics and creating so much division. That comes from Saul Alinsky. People forget Barack Obama was teaching rules for radicals. He was teaching about Saul Alinsky at the University of Chicago. That is a hero to him. And one of his rules, among many, that was meant to basically dismantle society and bring about this, liberal utopia. One of them was how to attack your enemy.
I was a big supporter of Obama back in the day. There was just on the surface, there was so much to like about him. But nowadays, I find him to be very out of touch and very overly critical of over half of American citizens who have expressed what they want. Are there any former Obama supporters who can relate? The American government just seems to have resigned itself to incompetency. They don't even try to hide their disinterest in understanding the most basic concepts.
Yeah, it's unclear to me what exactly the objective is related to this so-called DOGE initiative. From our perspective, we want a federal government that is effective and efficient and equitable. And to the extent the other side of the aisle shares that objective, which is what is right for the American people, then we'll see if there's common ground that's possible. Democrats will, of course, have to be directly involved to the extent that there is any legislative aspect of this, and we will, by necessity, be engaged because it's clear that the incoming House Republican majority will not be able to do much without us.
But now we see it's slipping through their fingers. The mayor of New York turns to the right. After previously having supported the idea of sanctuary cities, the harsh reality in New York has made him change his mind.
New York City's mayor, Eric Adams, says that he wants migrants charged with crimes to be deported from his city. That's a major shift from his previous stance of waiting for convictions. This is what he said to reporters just yesterday here in Gotham City.
You think the city should cooperate with ICE under certain circumstances?
This is not a new position, because in the state of era of cancel culture, no one's afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
A lot of people may not have expected those answers. Joe Borelli with me now, New York City Council Minority Leader. And Joe, good morning. Welcome back. New York Post cover. Here we go. Cancel me. I don't care. Oh. Been a long time since we've heard that. We understand that later this week, in all likelihood, Tom Homan will be here in New York and the two men will talk. What comes of it? What's the fate of the future for the safety of people in New York?
Well, hopefully it's a better outcome than we're seeing now. I mean, look, Bill, this election was certainly a wake-up call to the American people and most importantly to the Democratic Party. And it seems like perhaps Mayor Adams is the only one answering the phone because he's the only person recognizing right now that the American public and the New York public are simply not going to take the garbage that's going on right now where our laws hamper us from cooperating with ICE. It really is an unsustainable situation to have people who are convicted convicted in other countries or accused by the NYPD of committing crimes, and us not to be able to put them on the deportation process. People think, by the way, this is some extrajudicial process. People are simply going to go to the immigration court system and be adjudicated to be deported. That's all we're asking for. And I think Mayor Adams, if he can get this done, this could be a highlight of his first term in office.
Well, if you want to save some money, Department of Government Efficiency, now known as DOGE, has a couple ideas. Here it is. In 2023 alone, illegal immigration cost taxpayers $150.7 billion. Put this in context with other costs adjusted for inflation. World War I was $334 billion, Apollo space program $257, Manhattan Project $30 billion, Panama Canal $15 billion, Hoover Dam $1 billion. You know, Joe, it's kind of what people voted on. That's what this election was about in many ways for many people.
It is, and people are sick of it. To give some more context, I mean, it's costing us about $5 to $6 billion a year here in New York City. That is more than the entire budget of the FDNY and the Department of Sanitation combined. So that should really give a sense of scale to anyone listening, how much of an impact this is having on New Yorkers, not just those who are victims of crime, but people who have to pay taxes, businesses that have to pay taxes, people that have to get their property taxes increased every year. This is a real cost, and it's a significant cost. It's not something that's a drop in the bucket by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, they could withhold federal funds to major American cities if they don't cooperate, and that would be a stinger.
You know, I always think about this the same way that we tell people that you have to love yourself before you love someone else. It's the same with a country. You have to care for the people of your country first before you care for the people of other countries. Even if you have the best of intentions, you will be able to do more for others if you care for yourself first. And it's clear that the left is terrified as people question them more and more. Watch this carefully as the women of The View just freak out here and very quickly try to redirect to Trump as soon as Alyssa mentions any kind of critique about the left.
But I too was so disturbed. I saw some prominent figures on the far left who were celebrating this. And we have lost our collective conscience.
How do you know that?
Because it's online. I'm not even going to amplify and say who, because it is ghoulish, it is disgusting, it is evil. If you want to affect change in this country, it is a democracy. Organize, activate, get out and talk to people, talk to your congressman. Violence is absolutely never the answer. And to single out one individual because you have an issue with a company, a corporation, or an entire industry that's been fraught for decades.
And I would add, don't vote for Republicans because they want to overthrow Obamacare.
That's exactly.
They have no interest at all in this.
Respectfully, we complain about our health care right now. We are living under Obamacare. Obamacare ain't perfect either. It actually created monopolies in the health care system.
But the thing is, it's the only thing that's come closest to universal health care.
Yeah. And they continue to demean Trump's picks for his cabinet with baseless claims.
My fear also when I was reading about this story is that, we're going to have RFK Jr. responsible for Health and Human Services, who has a brain worm, but he's also, it's not just the brain worm.
Legal note, I think the worm is gone now.
No, I think it got encapsulated in his brain. I went down a rabbit hole on that. But
a wormhole, if you will.
Yeah, a wormhole, if you will. What I'm nervous about is if you read Project 2025, which is probably going to be the plan for healthcare, it's about privatization. It's about sort of getting rid of the at least limited amount of sort of universal healthcare that we have. And RFK Jr. really is more into holistic things. So I wonder, if you don't believe in conventional medicine, what kind of medical system are we going to have? If you're angry at what's happening now, I'm nervous about what could happen.
I'm with Joy.
But J.D. Vance just came out for the first time in a while, and he told the media it's not going to work. The media will not be controlling Trump's nominations for his cabinet.
Yeah, so look, guys, we're here to survey damage and provide support to the people of Western North Carolina, make it clear that their government, and in particular our administration, is not going to forget them. And that's why we're here. I'll answer one question about Pete Hegseth, because I know that's what people are focused on. Look, importantly, Pete Hegseth is going to get his appearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee, not a sham hearing before the American media. We believe that Pete Hegseth is the right guy to lead the Department of Defense. That's why President Trump nominated him. We're not abandoning this nomination. We're not going to make it easy for people to allow them who our Secretary of Defense is. Donald J. Trump, who just won an election by a very significant consent of the United States Senate, that's who determines who the Secretary of Defense is. I fully support Pete. I think Pete's going to get confirmed, and we are completely behind him. I have talked to Joni. I've talked to a number of my colleagues about this nomination and about other nominations. All I'm asking is that people actually allow the Senate process to work. We do not determine important government officials based on anonymous sourcing from the American media. We determine who our officials are through the nomination process, the advice and consent process of the United States Senate. That's how it should happen, and that's how the president's nominees are going to work through this process.
It was lovely to see J.D. Vance share his thoughts again. He's always very eloquent in how he expresses his opinions. That's everything for today, but I'm curious, how are you feeling about the upcoming Trump administration? Do you feel positive? Do you feel confident? Do you think that he's going to be able to change the significant things he needs to change? I worry that there will be so much resistance from so many different places that it'll make it difficult. And I feel that it's important that in these next 4 years he really proves a point and shows himself to be a successful president, because I think by the end of this 4 years, the Democrats will have had a lot of time to think about what went wrong here. And I'm concerned that they won't be doing that out of a place of good intention, but more just to get back into power. And they'll have had a lot of time to figure things out, and they'll be coming back with a game plan. So I think it's important that the Republicans prove themselves significantly here, that they make a big impact, and it's going to be difficult. I'm concerned about it, but optimistic. How about you? How do you feel about it? Please subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content like this. We just passed 100 subscribers, and honestly, I'm just really, really grateful. I don't know who subscribes, but you guys are really awesome, and thank you. I'll see you next time.